All right, we're going to recap. I guess one of my videos didn't work very good, so I'm going to recap real quickly how to set up a SQL database in DreamHost. So you log into DreamHost, and under the Goodies panel on the left, we go to Mysql databases. And I've got a lot more databases set up here than you would, but if you go to the bottom, you give your database a name, and usually these have to be unique across the entire computer that you're on, so you're competing with other DreamHost clients. So typically you're going to use your domain name for this, for your database name. And then a host name is, unless you have multiple websites, is going to be your CIS230 whatever your domain name is .com. You can create new host names and things, but I could put a different database on a lot of different servers if I wanted to. Then you're going to pick a username, and this is a different name than your login to DreamHost. So you're creating a new user here and a new password. This is going to be the data that we put into the PHP connection string so that we can access the database. So this should be different than your DreamHost account. Just in case this gets hacked somehow, your DreamHost login is not compromised. So it should be different than that. And then you just say add new database, and that will take about 15-20 minutes to create the actual database. Once it's done, we can get to it by going to the phpMyAdmin, and your server shows up here, and we click on phpMyAdmin, and it asks us for our username and password. And then this is the standard tool, and this one came through okay on the video, didn't it? Oh, how to do the actual database? Oh my gosh. All right. Wow. That's too bad. So here's the phpMyAdmin. It's a way that I can access the SQL database. And here on the left are the various databases that I have set up. And the one I just created is called CIS230 lecture. So this is a database that I can then add tables to. So a database consists of multiple tables, and I would add a new table for everything I want to track for the users. So if I wanted to add, already I have a products table, for instance. Let's say I want to add an articles table. So I can create a new database table here by under the Structure tab and give again the name, articles. And how many fields do I want to start with? Let's say 5. Say go. And my first field is going to be an int, and we might call this article ID. And I missed it last time, I think. Attributes. Auto increment. This is short for auto increment. That's where I missed last time. And it's going to be my primary index. So I'm going to select both of these at the same time. Then I might have the name of my article. That's a varchar, maybe 255 characters. Author might be a varchar 255. And this is how long the field is in the database itself. And then the actual content of the article might be text, which would be a bigger field. You know, I could store thousands of characters in there instead. And then maybe publish date might be a date and time stamp, or a date and time value. And of course I could add more fields if I wanted to, etc. Once I save that, it creates the structure just like I would do this in a SQL database. This is the the command to create a new table in my existing CIS 230 lecture database. It tells that my article is not null, auto increment, primary key. So all of that is here. I can modify the information if I wanted to. I can add additional keys, etc. So there's my structure. And I can, let's insert a new record just for fun. This is going to be auto increment my article ID, but my first name might be Dave's first article. The author is Dave Jones. Content is this is cool. And the published date might be today. And I say go. And that does the insert. It shows me the SQL to do that, how to insert data into the database. And what's nice is, since this is used with PHP all the time, it has a button here to click to create the code necessary to create the SQL statement to insert that information. Yeah, the biggest thing I've seen is we need to take these backticks out. These backticks cause problems. I usually take this whole database out because I'm only dealing with one database. Things like that. Yeah, they're called a tick mark or a backtick and yeah, some of these you might have to take out. So I don't know if it's worth it, but it gives you the structure anyway. Yep.
So when you initially generate it, it actually creates a record and enters it in your database?
Yes.
So why would we need the...
Well, I can take this code and strip some of these out and make these variables.
So that you can...
Yeah, it just gives me the structure that I can copy and paste it. Yeah. With all the names of the variable, the names of the fields and things. Database name, all that stuff. All right, so I can browse now. I should have another record. So here's my first record, article ID 1, Dave's first record, first article, et cetera, et cetera. All right, is that enough? Does that cover what I did? Pretty much. You can delete, you can do all kinds of other stuff. Usually, once I create the database structure, I don't use phpMyAdmin anymore. I go back to my code, and I'm writing the code to insert the data. All right? So, and that's where we were. Yes, there is. I suppose we could do that. If I can remember how to do it. It's a... I guess we might as well. We've already wasted the day. All right, so we can set this up to access the database directly from PHPStorm, which is kind of nice. I can add a new data source, and this is where it gets a little complicated. We want to download the MySQL connector, this 5.1. Oh, they've got 2 versions now. Isn't that nice? Let's take the 1.2.2 version and click here, and it will download the file. And it puts it in, what you should do is put it in your project file here. And it should show up somewhere in here eventually. And then the URL, see, this takes a while to get this right. We want to go and select the host and our database. So if we go back to PHP DreamHost and we look at all of this, the host name is the data that you're going to use to connect from your server. So it's the same as what we had in here, which was CIS 230 lecture, and yours is going to be similar to that. So this host part will take away the brackets and the failover host. We don't care about any of this port stuff. we're going to say CIS230 lecture.cis1scc.com, and then the database name was CIS230. I don't remember. I'm going to have to. It's here. It is CIS230. That's the database name. This is the host name that we copied before. So set this up again. Go back to properties, and we're going to do the CIS. Oops, oh, that's funny. Hello, Ray. That's wrong. That's from Ruby class. CIS 230 lecture. So you're going to put your host name and your database name / your database name and your username, which mine was Dave and whatever. And we're going to test our connection. See if it works. Yep. All right, so we get this error, which I can't really enlarge. It says I get an access denied error, okay? And it tells me what IP address I'm coming from. So make a note of that IP address. I'm going to copy that and say OK here and go back to DreamHost. DreamHost has some security in place that I have to edit and change. So I need to go to my database name, which mine was, see, I've got too many of them here, CIS230 lecture. This is mine. I'm going to edit this guy, and it tells me who can access my database. This says, by default, this % means anybody.dreamhost.com. So that allows your website to access the server, the SQL server. But if I want to access it outside of their DreamHost network, I have to put the IP address of where I am currently running into this system. And the nice thing is they tell me the IP address of where I'm at here, so I can copy and paste that up here. And so now at home, you would want to put your home IP address. Because the school has a rotating proxy, and it depends on how I get to the site. So what I like to do is, when I'm at school, I make this one a %, and so that it will allow me any time, so I don't need two of them, I just need one %. It allows any 255 computers to get to the site, but they also have to know my password and everything else, so it's a small hole. If you really want to be specific, you're going to have to change this a lot. So I'll say modify, and that will allow now different databases, and I can go back here and test my database, look at the properties, do a test again, and see I get a different error. Isn't that great? Access denied. It's still not allowing me. So is my password wrong? No. So that's why I didn't want to do this. $34.39.179. Go back and edit my guy again. .98. I'm going to put 98 in here specifically. It takes a little bit to get this to work right, and it might take a few minutes for DreamHost to recognize this. There it came. All right, finally worked. Took a few minutes. And now I can see my database just as if I was looking at it in phpMyAdmin. I can click on this table. This is my 2 tables that I created over there. Isn't that great? I can look at my articles table and see all of the field names and see all of the field names for my products table. If I double click on my table, let's see, I can, I have to click on my ID, and it actually does a browse and lets me see all of the table with my records. And I can actually edit this, and it will edit the data on the server. So I can edit, so I don't have to ever go back to phpMyAdmin. Isn't that nice? I can change, I can add fields, I can do some SQL queries, all kinds of fun stuff in here. Here's the database console. I can say select star from articles and then execute that line, and I see what I get back. Isn't that nice? I can select name from articles and execute that and see what I get back, just all the names. I can have multiple lines of code here. Article ID, and it does some IntelliSense now. It knows the database structure from articles, and I can just execute this line. If I hover over this line, have my insertion point on this line, I say run, it runs just that line, or I can run this line. So I've got, it's a quick way to test the database because my code might be wrong or my database might be wrong. So you're constantly going back and forth and looking at that. Isn't that cool? That's cool. So at home, you're going to have to change your IP address on the DreamHost so that you have access to it, because it means access from the computer that I'm running PHPStorm on. All right? Now, make sure you do not delete this DreamHost one, or your PHP server will never be able to access and do the PHP calls to your server. Does that make sense? The server itself is going to call over to the database, plus you from home is going to call to the database. So you've got 2 different connections there. Pardon me? I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it right now. It works. Let's leave it alone. All right. That's right. Let's leave it alone. All right. Any questions on that? That was pretty cool. All right. Let's move on to back to where we were in trying to get the data from PHP now. So we're trying to build a page by accessing, we're querying the MySQL database. We're getting data back, and we're going to build the HTML based on all of this results. So last week we talked about this fetch assoc, which lets me returns an associative array into the row variable. Row is now an associative array with the names of the columns as the keys. So it's a little bit like a hash in Ruby or an associative array in JavaScript. These are the names of the columns in my table called products because of this that I had up here. All right? So we could take all of this out. We could take the name. What else do we want to have in here? Instead of just printing them out with break tags, let's do some nicer stuff here. And we want to echo out a bunch of data. So I'm going to use the multi-line string. I like this thing. And we're going to have a table, product table, we'll call it. Product table. And inside of here, we can start producing our table that we want to have in here. All right, so if I wanted to print an actual HTML table, I'd have to start the table above my while loop, right? I'm going to echo out the beginning table, and I'm going to put a border on it just because I like borders. And so I echo out the beginning of my table, at the end of my loop, I echo out the ending of my table. And then internally, each row here, this is a row that I'm going to have to deal with.
Your curly braces.
Something's messed up.
Your curly brace below the product table needs to be after the echo. Curly brace right below the product table.
No. That's part of my while loop. There's something else wrong. That's not right. I don't know. Should say what?
That should just matter.
No.
I'm pretty sure you're missing a curly brace at the very end.
Pause. All right, so we just re-edited the product table and it works. It's a PHPStorm problem. So every row, we have to start our row, right? So we're just going to put our row here. And we need to end our row. And then we need to put our table cells. So the first cell is going to be what? Maybe our product ID. So I'm going to go look inside. I need a TD. And then I'm going to look inside my row variable for the associated column called product ID. And then close my cell. All right? What? I wonder if this is a problem. Yep. So since this is more than just a simple variable, I have to put braces around it. This is a problem with PHP's string interpolation. So I need to put open and closing curly braces around this row, which I hate that. But anyway, we have to do that. So I'm going to have several rows, and the only thing that's going to change is the variable names. And if I don't remember them, I have my little table over here. Name, description, price. So my description, price, cost, image, created at, modified at, right? So I'm going to have image, created at, modified at. Looks a lot like Ruby, doesn't it? I mean Rails. It does, but I'm just displaying the data from the table. I'm not doing anything else right now. So yes, it does. I think we set this up to be an automatic, the modified at anyway was a timestamp. So it'll automatically get updated when we get to that point. All right, so let's save that and go to my site and reload this. And look at that. Is that beautiful? I've got a table now with all of the data in my database. That comes from all the tables. Now, it would make a little bit nicer sense if I had a header for that, right? So let's where would I add that in my code here? Right here? If I put it inside here, I'm going to print out a bunch of headers. So I need to do that actually up here. Oh, I lost all my formatting and everything. So I need a T, TR and then a TH, right? TH. That's one of those. Fine, we'll do it that way.
I could be wrong.
So our first one is the ID. The second one is name. Third one is description. Fourth one is price. Fifth one is cost. Yep. And then we have cost, image, created at, and modified at. Then I need to end my header, semicolon, big long string, and we reload this puppy, and look at that. Is that beautiful? Except I'm off, right? I'm off because of this TH. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I was starting there. Andy messed me up. So these should be TRs. These should be THs. Now I gotta, let's see. Let's do a TD replaced with TH. And so we want to replace. All right, replace them, upload it. There, we're talking. Thank you, Brian. Did I change what?
The TR closing. For the header. I mean, it probably, the browser will fix it.
Yeah, it fixed it.
Sorry, I did say I could be wrong.
Yeah, he did. All right. There we go. So now we've got this nice little table. I put borders around it just so I could see the delineation. And now if I added data to my table, if I add a new, let's see, I want to do it to my products table instead. If I add a new something here, yeah, it's not going to do it automatically here. That's a PHPStorm problem. Polls, sticks, $39.95, $14.95, images, products, polls, JPEG, created at. It knows it's a date field, so I can just let it fill in there. Failed to load Java, isn't that nice? Must be represented as a time stamp. Whatever. So that did it. Should have. All right. So now I can reload my page. It didn't actually end it, did it? Why is it not doing that? Yeah, I guess I could do this. These are, I don't know, those are problems. So it should have had 3 now. There we go. So PHPStorm has some problems there, but I can add data to my database, and now my form is just going to go grab all the data from the database and display it in this structure that I created, this table structure. So let's go through this again. I make a connection to the database. using variables that I stored in another file, because I'm going to do this on lots of different files. So I need to go get the data, fill in those 4 variable names, create a new connection object. That's a connection object that I can do stuff with. I create actually check to see if I have any errors when I go connect to the database. I create a SQL command string that says give me all the products, up to 30 of them, and I could take this out if I wanted to. And then I echo it to the screen just because this will be useful for debugging purposes. Then I actually execute the query, passing the string that I created, and I get a result object back that I can do result type stuff with. And one of those methods built into it is to fetch an associated array for every row in my table. So this loop will loop until I don't get any more rows, and then the loop will finish. And so I'm printing the beginning of my table, looping through, getting every row's data, printing out in a table, getting the next row of data, printing the next row of table, etc., until I quit, and it prints it out here. Isn't that great? So we've successfully created a database, gone all the way to PHP, and now I'm generating HTML with dynamic data from a database, and I can obviously put my headers around this and make it look better on the page, right? Everybody see that? Any questions on that? All right, tomorrow we'll talk about the rest of the CRUD associated with MySQL, like creating a new record, updating a record, deleting a record, and this is reading a record already here. So we'll play with that. All right, goodbye.